Hello and welcome everyone. So this is part 3 of the Devlog series, and now in this obviously I've made a few changes and I'll go through them what they actually are. So now the first change that I have made in this is, as you guys can see, the scene looks a bit different. Now I'm still using the same assets, but this is more towards the art side. I'll be changing a lot of these things anyway. So decided, these things up here, change these things, and obviously made these longer. So when we click play, there's actually a bit more area below, so you can't just see the bottom. So just to make sure that everything isn't just hanging off in space, just like these are. So that's the first thing I've changed. Next thing I've changed is, you guys can see I'm using blocking volumes from the modes. Now what blocking volumes do is basically they prevent the character from going to a certain place where you don't want him to go. For example, I added one right at the start here. So when the game starts, I don't want the character to be able to go behind the actual play area. So I'm using this blocking volume just to block the play. If I go to let and then play a collision, you can see it basically adds some collision rather than having a mesh. Just have a random collision that will basically block anyone from being able to go towards that side. So that's a useful feature that we could add. Now the next thing, if I click play and click start, you'll notice that the area in general looks wider. Now this is because I've added a camera width. I've increased the camera width so I can see more area around the character, and you can change that value as well if you like, and we'll go ahead and do that just a second. And the last thing you can see is, if I jump and stop, you'll see the camera follows behind, so it kind of lags behind, which gives a cool, nice effect. And it's also useful if your character gets buggy or your game gets buggy, so you can obviously add that delay so your camera doesn't go crazy all over the place and give people headaches. So we'll go ahead back to late mode, and this time we'll go to content, we'll go to 2D side scroller BP, blueprints, and we'll go inside the character itself. Now if you click on the camera boom down here, so you can obviously set the target arm length and the target offset for the camera. This basically increases the distance between your camera and your target. But it wasn't really working for me, so I'm not sure if this will work for you or not. So what I did instead is I went ahead to my camera, the main camera itself, and I changed the width to it was I think about 2048 for me. I increased that to 409 and decreased that based on what you want to achieve. So there's that. And now the next thing that I actually did is, so on the camera boom up here, you can just type, you can just scroll down actually. So there's lag option right here. So you can check this, which will enable camera lag, and then you can define how far behind or how slow the camera you want to be just behind your character. So that's a cool feature to add. Now the next thing we'll actually go ahead and fix is, so this is a bug from the last tutorial that I have discovered. So when we click play, so remember we did the axe, the chest thing. So when we open the chest, it spawns an axe. But note here, I'm not going to pick the axe up. I'm just going to go to the tree, and guess what? We can cut the tree without an axe. Now we don't want this happening. So to fix this, we're going to run a quick check inside the blueprint for the open chest. So I'm just going to go back in here. So click on this blueprint and then open blueprint editor. Now you guys won't have this because I made this myself. I'm just going to delete this just to show you guys how to do this. So this is our current setup. Now we'll just go ahead and add a new variable, just a boolean variable, and we'll check. So I'll type axe visible question mark. So this will run a check for us. Well, we will manually run a check to see, so when the axe is no longer visible, only then we want to cut the tree. So I'm going to drag this out, so alt and left mouse, and then drop that here, and I'll plug this in here and just run this. So when we overlap, remember the box one, which basically is where our axe is. So when we run this, I'm actually going to delete the string as well. I don't think we need this string any longer, or what I can do is, let's just do this. So I'm gonna do once. So I'm gonna use another node here called do once. So it only happens, so this process only takes place once. So in this case, we'll leave this unchecked. So right now our axe is not visible, so we'll leave this unchecked. Then what we'll do is go ahead and, so we'll uncheck this from here, hold alt and left click down here. And down here what I'll do is I'm actually going to control click and drag this, or if you're on Windows then use the command key, sorry on Mac. Then I'm going to select this and type branch. So I'm going to branch a value out here. And then what I'll do is, so I'll run false. So on false I'll do this. and I'll make a custom event down here. So just type custom event and then plug that in here. And this custom event I will call say cut tree, perhaps, question mark. Right, so there's that. So we'll run this event down here now, and we obviously need to set this up just after our acquired string. So I'll call this here, so cut tree, and now it will run whenever we obviously go over the box. It'll run that check for us. So that's it, let's go. So let's do post testing. So first we'll do is we'll leave the axe, and we'll just go ahead and try to cut the tree without the axe. So hit the collision box. And lucky for us, it's not working. Now fingers crossed, let's go back, jump on top, and this time we'll go ahead and collect our axe. So we've collected the axe. It says axe acquired. Now remember, this is only going to run once. So if we go back now and we go over the same box again, the message does not appear again and again, so it doesn't annoy us. So that bug can be fixed. And now we should have the axe. Now when we go to the tree, as you see, we can cut the tree. So that's just a little bug from last time that we quickly fixed. So now we'll go ahead and we'll start working on the next area, and we'll start adding more functionality to our game. So as I said last time, now we'll be actually quickly going over the so we'll do three things. First thing is save game. So what essentially we'll be saving is the player location itself. So we'll do the save and then load, and so there'll be two load options. One will be you can load the game that you save, and the other one which will be that whenever you go over a checkpoint, it automatically saves the game, and then you can choose the option to load from last checkpoint. So to do this, if you remember earlier on, if I click play, we added this load button in our main menu, and if I click start and press P for our pause menu, we added a save button down here. Now we'll be using these two save and load buttons, but we'll also be adding two more buttons to each of these. In the pause menu, a load from checkpoint, and in the main menu. So we'll straight away just go to our content browser, go to our main menu, open up the main menu. And I'm just going to hide the options menu. So click on the options menu, click on the eye icon. I'm going to select this button, and then I'm using Windows C since I'm on iOS. And then I'm going to click on main menu and Control V, which adds an extra button down here. And then just going to select the main menu and just make it slightly bigger from the bottom. And this button we're just going to move just below our load. Now I'm not really going to change the text at the moment. I can do that in my own time, but I'm going to call this b_load from check. So this tells me that this is something that's going to load from the checkpoint. Just going to quickly save this, and I'm going to go to graph. So that's a load button, and load from check, we'll make a new thing for this, and we'll just leave this here. And just going to make a bracket around this and call this load from checkpoint, or we can say load from last checkpoint, since our checkpoints will get updated as and when we go over them. Okay, just going to compile this right now, and then back in our content browser, just going to open the pause menu. And inside here, once again, we can make the options menu disappear. And just below save, we'll do a load from last checkpoint. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy, just save. And then just paste that here, right at the end. Seems I pasted in the wrong one. So we could click on not the options menu, the main menu. And then Control V. And here's the button right at the end. Just going to call this load, or b_load check. Doesn't matter what the name is, as long as you guys remember this, it's all good. And I'm just going to move this just below the save one. And in the image, I'm actually going to find the load image, so it's easier for us to manage this. Right, so we have that, and now we can go ahead and compile quickly. And I'll click the load check and then make a new area for this, so we can work on this as soon as we are done here. To make a comment section around it, and this we will call load from last checkpoint. So now we'll actually, what we need to do is we'll just compile this and save this quickly. We'll close that and we'll close the, so just close these things. So inside here, I made a new folder called save game, and inside this folder I'm going to go ahead and make a blueprint class, and down here we'll type save. So we're looking to make a save game, so we'll select the save game, and this you can pretty much call anything. This I can call save game, but I think it needs to have a particular name. You can't just have save game because that can sometimes mess up, so you need to give this like a custom name. I'll just call this custom save game. Okay, so once we've done that, I'm going to double click and open this. Now inside here we'll make a variable. So as I said, I'll be storing the location, the rotation and things like that, so I'm not really going to bother with too much in this. So if you guys do want to add anything, this is the place where you will add it, and then we'll go ahead and I'll show you how you guys can actually go ahead and work that out later on. So we'll change this to the variable type to a transform. I'm going to call this player, let's say player transform save. Right, once you've done this, I'm just going to compile this, and as you can see, it stores the location, the rotation and the scale. Now once we have done this, we are going to go ahead and go back to our the main menu, and we'll go to, first I believe we'll go to our pause menu, because that's where we have the option to save. Yeah, that's the one. So now inside the save thing, yep, so here is, so on click save, we will do, let's say, create save game objects. And now if we search for the class, you can see this is the class that we just made, the custom save game, and we can select that down here. And the return value down here will do this promote to variable, and we can call this I don't think it matters too much what you call this, but let's just call this save game custom, so this has a similar name to it. I'm going to do this and then do set. Now when we type set, we can see the variable we made inside this custom save game. We can find that down here, and here that is. I'm just going to move these things down so we have more space to work on. So now what we need to do is we need to basically get our player character, so wherever he will be in the game. So get player character. Once we have a player character, remember we the transform saves three things, so the location, the rotation and the scale, but I think the main thing we need to worry about is the rotation and the location. So we'll do get actor location first of all, and then we can do get actor rotation. Now we need to get the right, we need to kind of put this together so we can put this information here in the right format. So for that, what we need is a make transform nodes, and this will basically allow us three options, which is obviously we can plug in our location, we can plug in the rotation of our character, and then we can plug the return value down here, and we can connect this node up together. Just going to tidy this up just a little bit. Then just going to compile this quickly and save, and then we need to move this back so we have a little more space. And straight after, I believe what we can go ahead and do is we can go ahead and say save game to slot. Now, so our save game, so this will be the thing that we need to drag forward. So we'll drag the save game custom, and we'll attach that down here. And now we need to have a slot name. Now this name needs to be the same, so this is the file name that your game will be saved as inside your save games folder. So you need to have the same name when you were trying to load the file, and if you have multiple saves, you need to name them differently. So we'll go ahead actually and create a new variable. It has to be a string. As you can see, this color, string color, matches down here, and then we can call this, let's say player save, player custom save. Let's call this that. Press enter. Just need to compile this so we can paste the name down here. right? And then we can just drag and drop that right here. Now you see this, there's a red note down here. Now this is a branch, so we can actually add a branch here. So that's a Boolean value, and then we can see, so if it's, so this is pretty much for our testing purposes, just so we know that it's working. So we can type print string, we can paste this twice, and up here we can say, so if it's true, if it's able to save the game to slot, we'll say game successfully saved. I might have spelled that wrong, but it doesn't matter to me right at the moment. So, and then the other one we can say game save unsuccessful. Now if we expand these, we can also choose colors and the duration it shows up. So if it's successfully saved, we'll make this green, so we know it's a good thing. And if the save is unsuccessful, we'll change the color down to red, so we know that something's gone wrong, and we want to look at that. So what we can go ahead and do now is, just after we've done this bit, we'll go ahead, we'll just close this pause menu quickly, and we'll try and see if the save works. So now if you click play, and we click start, and I'm just going to pause here. So we also have this thing set up where the game pauses. Now if we click the same button, you can see that it's successfully been saved. Now just to test to see if it's actually saved the file, I'm just going to go to my documents, Unreal Projects, and inside my devlog and saved, we can see save games. It's called player custom save, the name that we gave our game. So we know that the save is working so far. Now we need to go ahead and set up a load system. So for that, what we need to do is we'll go ahead to our content browser again, and in our main menu this time, where we have our load function. So inside our load, we'll go ahead and go to the graph. Now down here, so first we'll just basically run a check. So does save game exist, which will be a Boolean value of true or false. And remember the name that we gave earlier, we need to just I'm just going to make a new string here. So seems I've already been working with these things. I'm just going to delete this and just use that one, but you need to have another string value down here. And then let me see what I named the last one. So it was, I believe it was player custom save. So in the graph, yeah, I'm just going to copy this just so there's no errors in typing or something. So player custom save, and then compile, and then type that down here as well. Compile again, and we can drag and drop this here. Now what we can do is we can go ahead and do our branch check again. So if a file does exist, we want it to load game from slot, and the slot name is this, as we checked in our documents, it was there as well. And if it doesn't exist, what we'll do is we'll actually go ahead and print a string, and this string we will call no save games found. And of course we'll change the color to red, so we know that it's not a good thing. Okay, so we've done that. Just going to compile this quickly. Now if you remember, the things that we saved were basically the rotation of our character and the location of our character. So let's go ahead here and then let's see, just going to get the player character again, and this time we'll go ahead and say set location, set actor location, and then set actor rotation. So the save game blueprint that we made, we need to go ahead and cast to it. So from the return value, we'll go ahead and say cast to the custom save game that we made the blueprint of. And from here, we need to actually go ahead and get the settings that we saved. And we will have to, I'm just going to drag this down here so it's a bit more, I guess, neat in a way. And we'll go ahead and break transform. Now this break transform, this will have the location that we need and the rotation that we need. we can go ahead and connect that right here, and if in case the cast fails, what we can go ahead and say is we can print another string here, just so we know exactly what's happening at which stage. If something doesn't work, we'll know straight away, and we'll say cast to custom save failed. Now these things you might need to remove in the final version of your game. You don't want but these things are mainly just for testing purposes. So here we have it, and then let me just see if everything looks good here. Yeah, it looks fine. So now since we are working with our main menu, we need to actually have the main menu disappear. So we'll go ahead and add a few more nodes down here. So once everything's been completed, we'll say remove from parents. And then we'll hide our mouse cursor, so let's show the mouse cursor. We'll uncheck that, and we'll get, I believe, get player controller. Yeah, and I think the last thing, I don't think the game will be paused, so we're good here. Now we're just going to run a quick check to see if that works. Now if we minimize this, we click play, try to load. Oh, I see what's going on. Okay, so if you go ahead and click play, and then we click start, we press the P button. So now we moved up to close to this thing, and we click save. Game successfully saved. Now obviously this load won't work because we haven't actually set that up. We go stop, we press play. If we press this load, nothing's happening. I think this is the load that we set up. So if you press this load, you can see that the player moves to the exact place. But right now I don't have the controls for the player. So there's just one thing we need to go ahead and do is inside our thing, right at the end, inside the main menu, I believe. So just after this, we need to enable input, so our player gets the input, since I had disabled it earlier in the main menu, so we couldn't control the player while we're in the main menu. And then so enable input targets, let's say get player character. So that's our target. Then compile, save, and now if we go ahead and click play and we load from here, you can see we can move around straight away, and it saves the location nicely of our player character. So this, as we had the wrong button selected, so I'm going to just swap these two buttons. So it's the right load button that we have down here. So I'm just going to connect that right here. Then compile and save, and then same thing in the pause menu. If you go ahead and, so we have a load from checkpoint here. So yeah, so that's all good. So now we know that our basic save is working. Now we need to go ahead and make a checkpoint. Currently, if you remember, the last thing we were using was that it was basically a spawn location for, so whenever our player fell off, so whenever his death occurred, he would spawn, you know, right at this point. But now what we'll need to go ahead and do is, so we'll go to content browser inside the save game. We'll go ahead and make a new blueprint class, and we'll call this the actor class, and this I will call checkpoint 1. Okay, now we go ahead and open this. So first thing we need is a box collision. So this is to detect when our player actually hits the box. I'm just going to make this slightly wider. So just press R and then scale in from the middle. So on box collision, and I think the next thing we might add, we can add a text just so we know where it's located, and like we can go ahead and rotate the text 90 degrees, and I'm going to call this, so in the text, checkpoint 1. I'm just going to make the world size, let's say 40, just so it's nice and wide for us to see. Now just going to move this quickly to my scene so I can see it in there. Alright, so here it is. Going to change the mode to player collision so I can make sure that it covers the area nicely, the area just above the just above where the player will be. Yeah, that looks good. So we can go back to our lit mode, and you can see we can see the checkpoint 1 from here, so we know when it's there. Now we'll go back to our content, we'll open up checkpoint 1, and we'll do, so it's going to delete all of these, we don't need those. So on actor begin overlap, so events actor begin overlap, go ahead and say seems the box wasn't selected, so we need to make sure that box is selected. We can even scroll down here and say down there, so on component begin overlap. So let's say, so I'll just do once node, because remember we only want for each checkpoint to be hit once, and then no matter how many times the player goes over it, we don't want it to keep resetting, because we want to always update to the new checkpoint that we will make. So we'll do once. So first thing we'll do is we'll actually go ahead and print a string saying checkpoint reached. So after we have reached a checkpoint, we'll actually go ahead and set visibility. So set visibility of our text render, we'll set that to not visible. So it shows up to the player when he hasn't reached it yet, and after he has reached it, we will take the visibility away of the checkpoint writing. And now we need to go ahead and once again make a save file. So we'll say create save game object. And this time we need to go ahead and make a new blueprint class and then search for save game. And we can call this, so let's say checkpoint save. So we'll call it exactly what it is. Right, and then back in the checkpoint save, we need to select that down there. So checkpoint save, and then promote to variables. So we'll be following the same process once again. And we can just call this save checkpoint. I'm just trying to keep the names very similar for different things that matched. So there we have the checkpoint save, and then we need to once again go into checkpoint save, make a new variable, and we'll be saving the transform, and I'm just going to call this checkpoint location. So this time we'll just be saving the location for our checkpoint, and we'll update that every time the player reaches a new checkpoint. So we'll go back to here and we'll do set. So we'll set the checkpoint location, you can connect that up, and we'll need to get the location of our of just this. So we'll just say get actor location since we're inside the blueprint itself, and we'll get the actor rotation, right? And then we'll need to make the transform again, so we can plug that into our transform up there, and we need to plug in the rotation. Now we can go ahead and I believe we did create save game object and then save game to slot, and this will be our save game object, and we'll name this so we can call this checkpoint reached save, and this needs to be a string value once again. I'm just going to copy all this. Just it's better to copy since you know exactly what you type, and you can easily paste that along different places. Now we can run a check again, so we can use a branch to see if it worked. So if it worked, we'll type string, print string, and then Control C, Control V, or for me it's Windows, I'm using a Windows keyboard. And then that would be, so checkpoint saved successfully, and this will be a greens because that's something that is supposed to happen. And if we have an error, we'll change that to red, and we'll call this checkpoint save unsuccessful. Now we'll go ahead and test this quickly to see, just to see if the save game is working. Everything looks okay here. So we'll minimize this. We'll go ahead and play. And you see, so checkpoint saved successfully and checkpoint reached. And now to see if it's actually worked, we can go ahead in our documents, Unreal Projects, open up the project, saved, and in save games you can see we have two saves now. So one is the player custom save and one is the checkpoint reach save, which we have just made. Now we need to go ahead and open up our main menu again, inside our main menu. So the place where we have our load from last checkpoint. Actually, I think what we can go ahead and do is we can pretty much just copy and paste this, since there's pretty much is a lot of the same stuff that we need to be running anyway. So I'm just going to save this and we'll just make a few changes to this if we need to. I'm going to just say copy all the way across to here and then paste this right here. We will definitely need more space, so make this wider. And we can go ahead and move this right up here. So does save game exist? We'll check that. And now we need to make a new, so we need to delete these two variables. We need to make a new string name. So we'll make a new variable. We'll choose string. And the stuff that I copied earlier, I'm going to paste that in here. That's the wrong one. That's a lot of stuff pasted here, which is just not supposed to be here. So we'll go back to our checkpoint 1 and we'll select the checkpoint reached save. I'll copy that and I'll inside the main menu I'll paste that down here. So we compile and then we can paste that here as well, and we need to plug this into our slots. And the second one as well. So we need to change the, so in this case we were casting to the custom save game, but we need to be casting instead. So we'll do cast. So we cast to checkpoint save, the save that we made earlier. And then from here we'll get, we'll say get. So we'll get the checkpoint location, the ones that we saved. We can delete the other one and we'll bring that here. And we'll have our, we'll teleport our player character to the location of the checkpoint, and it will follow the rotation and the location of it. And in case it doesn't work, we'll print the string cast to custom save field. Or not custom save, we'll say cast to checkpoint save failed. And I believe, yeah, that's the red color as well. So we'll compile, save, and I think it should be good to go, so we can go ahead and test this out quickly. So we'll start, we can see that the checkpoint's been saved. And now if we go ahead and I just want to move my character so we know exactly that it's working. So we'll move the character up here and we'll do load from checkpoint. And as you can see, we are loading from where we left off before. So our checkpoint is now also working. Now if we had multiple checkpoints, we would basically just update the checkpoint. So we'll just make a new save file, just over it with the same name, so it will overwrite the file. And since we can only go over a checkpoint once, as we did in the blueprint we did, we're using a node called do once. It will only happen once for each checkpoint. So if, let's say, a player goes to the next checkpoint and then comes back to the last one, it won't actually update itself. So that's a very useful way of doing that. I'm just going to name this let's say checkpoint overlap save. So that's it. And the other thing I changed from the from the last thing was I tried to organize things into folders just a little bit. And yeah, so we can go ahead and go to our blueprints, open level blueprint, and we don't need this checkpoint anymore. So what we can do instead is we can actually select our checkpoint that we made, checkpoint 1, and we can just create a reference to that here, so when our player falls down he spawns at that checkpoint, just in this case. Okay, we might come back to this later sometime, but now we will probably have take a look at something else. So now for the last bit, I think what I'll do is I'm just going to move the checkpoint 1 just before the fall. So if our player does fall down, he will obviously spawn back at this checkpoint up here, and that would be very useful. And then maybe later on somewhere across this place we'll have more checkpoints. Maybe after this tree I'll add one more checkpoint down there if we need to. But so far this is good. And then in the next video I'll be looking at maybe adding some more mechanics. I've been thinking of adding some like blades and stuff, some rolling stuff where when the death occurs you have the option to spawn at the checkpoint and things like that. So yeah, I guess that's it for today, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.